Hey, this is David from Rowdy Penguin, and today obviously we're going to make some cornhole boards. I know, another cornhole video. I'm using plans that you can find pretty much anywhere online. The standard is 24 by 48 inches. I'm also doing this out of red oak because it's nice and durable and I like how it looks. So as you can see here, I'm ripping these down to 3 inches for the frame. And then I'm also going to cut in 1/2 inch rabbets on them, and I used the table saw method on this because it just seemed the most economical and the easiest for cutting a lot of pieces, because I am making 4 cornhole boards on this. And now here I am getting ready to cut 45-degree miters. I'm using the Wixie angle gauge, and it's a really good handy thing to have with a table saw. You can really dial in the perfect cuts. And then also I'm setting up the frame here using a strap clamp to put it all together and doing a glue up. This took a little bit of time, but these strap clamps are really handy and highly recommend those also. So like I said previously, the dimensions here for the frame are 48 inches by 24 inches. And then I'm using 3 inches for the sides as a height. And what's good about this is that the sheet goods, the plywood, you can buy it in 24 by 48 inch pieces in case you don't want to have to rip down a full sheet of plywood. It may not be as cost effective as buying a full sheet, but it is easier if you're a one-man shop and you're trying to cut down some goods. And this is just a time saver, and it still comes out pretty good, and you can find some nice oak plywood usually in your big box stores or at your local lumber yard. Here I'm using a hole cutting saw to cut the 6-inch diameter hole that's required for this, and it's 12 inches over and 9 inches down, centered at the top of the board. So the next step was making the legs, and you got to make sure that your top angle there is at 12 inches. That's according to the regs, and it works out well. So now comes the fun part. Now that everything's put together and sanded, this is the finishing time. I'm taping off the edges here because I'm going to do a 2-tone stain and Danish oil mix just to kind of highlight it and just add some pizzazz, I guess. Using some Watco Golden Oak Danish oil. This is one of my favorites. It doesn't get blotchy and it covers pretty well. Just a quick note here that there are 2 cornhole organizations. Here's the American Cornhole Organization and the American Cornhole Association, and both of which are available online, and you can buy items from them, you can buy plans, and they offer the rules and regulations of the game. Next up is the fun part. I'm adding some personalization to these boards for the 2 different customers that I have. And I'm using some paint pens that you can get like at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or other places like that, and some stencils. And it really works out well. I don't always have a good steady hand, so using some stencils and a pen instead of a brush and a dab of paint is a little bit easier for me. And it comes out really nice and clean lines. The one thing you want to make sure you do after that is after it dries, is to spray it with some spray lacquer, just so that it kind of helps set it, so that, because later on when I was putting on wiping polyurethane, I noticed that it would take off part of the paint because there's some paint thinner in the polyurethane. So you just got to be careful with that. Also, as you can see here is the two-tone stains. I used that golden oak for the central part, and then on the edges I used a mixture of walnut Danish oil and a Minwax Espresso stain. It came out with an interesting combination there, but it looks really good on the oak. And then I took a black paint pen and just did a little edging line on that, and it really came out really well. Kind of helps offset things and really makes it pop. The next step here was adding some reinforcing corner brackets, just because, you know, these are going to be played outside, the grass might be wet, and boards kind of get kicked around over time, so I just wanted to kind of add some stability to it, even though I do have the miters there glued and pin nailed underneath, but I just want to add a little extra something. I bought some brackets, spray painted them a matching copper to match the name paint, and then added in the nice rounded head screws. I think it came out looking pretty sharp. And then here I am putting on that wipe-on poly, and once again, just make sure you pre-spray any paint you have down, because it will rub off with the wiping poly. And the final step here is putting on the legs. I rounded them over at the top so that they'd fit well within the frame and rotate up and down okay for storage, and put them in place with a a bolt and a couple washers and a nut. And the critical part here is making sure that they keep it at the 12-inch height on the backside. And here we are with the completed product. Like I said, I made 4 of these because I had 2 different customers for it. They're personalized. They're to the right height, the right width, the right length, good dimensions. Once again, you can find those plans usually online. Like I said, the American Cornhole Organization, or the American Cornhole Association. These are very popular. I'm not the first, obviously, to make this video, but hope this helps and hope it was informative. Thanks.